Morning, Rose Brief community. We have today in an interview. We have an interview with Renata Simões, who is the director of creative content at iStock and Getty Images. Hi, Renata. How are you?
I'm great, Leo. How are you?
Fine. You know, it's like a sunny day, Monday, starting the week, and it's like we got.
Best way to start the week, right?
I know, yeah, because it's been windy here in Puebla, but today is sunny and it's like, oh my god, greetings to that. Um, okay, Simon, Simoes, Renata, to start this interview, can you please tell us about your, how did you develop your work in iStock and Getty Images?
Sure. So I've been here. I've been at Getty Images and iStock since 2006.
Okay,
I started in the São Paulo office in Brazil. I'm actually Brazilian. And I started within the creative department. Then I went to marketing, where I was at for 9 years. And then in 2016, I got transferred to the New York office to work back with the creative department. So basically responsible for developing all the creative content and working with our creators in Brazil and Latin America. And then today now I'm responsible for all the Americas.
so it's been.
But I live in Texas though, because it's warmer than New York. So I just moved to Texas last year.
Okay, so it's been a while since you started with iStock and Getty Images, and you've been like, climbing, and you
Yes,
were sent to the US. Oh, that's marvelous! It's incredible, and you live in Texas.
I do. I live in Houston now.
Yeah, oh, amazing! Like news Beyonce's song, It's like,
Oh, yeah.
um, our first question is what impact has the use of artificial intelligence based technology had on the advertising industry?
Great. So that's a great question. We know that AI has been causing very fast changes.
Yeah.
And specifically in Latin America, we see that according to our visual GPS research, people are more excited than they are nervous about the technology because they feel that artificial intelligence can help them be more efficient and productive in their day-to-day lives. So with that, we see that 42% of businesses in Mexico specifically, they have been already harnessing Gen AI to create visual content. And we also, through the research, we've seen how creatives have been using the tool. So they use the tools when they need unique images that are not commonly found,
Okay.
or when it's too niche, or when they need it to fit exactly what the client is looking for. It's also a source for faster and more affordable production. And then they also use it to ideate, to conceptualize, or just to explore and have fun. So these are some of the ways that we've been seeing that creatives have been using it in Latin America.
Here, for example, in Rosebeak, we've been using these tools that generate, for example, AI images. And sometimes it's for something specific, but I don't know, the other part of the time we are like playing, like generating.
I think we all started playing with
Yeah.
prompts, right?
And,
I
and we
know.
got here in Rosebrief our creative laboratory, and it's very interesting what you can do with with these tools.
It is. It's amazing.
Uh,
And I think that we're at Getty Images, we have four goals overall, which is to help customers create higher level content, also while saving them time, money, and mitigating the risks as best as we can. So we know working with partners such as NVIDIA or Threa and even Runway, we're able to create tools that are responsible and commercially safe. So that's also important when creatives are thinking about the tools that they're using. So our tool, for example, generative AI,
okay.
the tool is trained 100% in our creative library. So that means that you can't prompt Taylor Swift or Nike or Bob Sponge or whatever word that has a brand or a personality. that it won't give you any results. So it's safe for brands to use. So that's super important too. We don't produce deep fakes.
This was, for example, because of the people that were generating these images of, for example, Taylor Swift, like for adults and that kind of stuff, that you have to improve another terms of use?
Well, I think that we know that there's regulation that is needed, but we also believe that the tools need to be we need to be responsible when we're thinking about what we're offering to customers. And in the world full of deep fakes and misinformation, this is super important, the trust. We see, especially in Mexico, we see that 80% of the people, they do want to know if the image was created using AI or if it was modified using AI. So transparency and trust is so important that we made sure that we were doing that when we created our tools. So it's super important to know what the tools are using and making sure that it's respecting all the privacies and everything. So, for example, we have our editorial side, right? We're a news provider as well. And it is our role to capture real events as they are without manipulating or recreating them to tell different stories, as we've seen with Taylor Swift and whatnot. Yeah. So our model is 100% trained on creative assets only. No logos, no personalities, no politicians,
just
nothing.
Creative assets.
No, just creative. So nobody can, from our tool, create anything that has legal issues.
Okay. Talking about creativity, what is the role of human creativity compared to AI within the advertising industry?
Well, I think that for the Gen AI and our roles as creatives, beyond, if you think about the Gen AI tools, beyond their training sets, they don't have knowledge of or the experience of what is going on in the world. They only know what has been, right, with the training sets that are used. So it's not reacting to the present moment or to the future, and it does not react to how people currently feel about brands or products. So it's definitely a tool, but not a replacement for human creativity because of some of those reasons. So it does allow marketers and creatives to produce images that otherwise would be hard to create, or even to help visualize or represent topics and concepts. So, for example, reimagining fashion, or reimagining how we live, how we travel, how we interact with technology or the future, or even how we relive the past, or how we tell new stories. There's a great example of that with an ad that I recently saw. About it was a media company called Revolt.
Okay.
They actually created a campaign for Black History Month called Imagine If. So basically they used AI Gen to reimagine situations that could have been or that could be. So for example, they did Martin Luther King Jr. meeting Barack Obama.
Okay.
They did the first female Black president in the United States. So it was a way, the campaign was a way of responding to the lack of representation of Black people in mainstream media. So there are various ways, and you need humans for that, right? You can't just count on the tool itself. You need someone behind it, the brains behind it, to reimagine all that stuff and put the prompting in.
So do you really think that people is scared about these kind of tools? Or it's just like the misunderstanding of the tool?
Well, as I mentioned, that we've seen from our visual GPS, people are actually more excited than nervous.
Okay.
I think that what the issue is what I mentioned about the trust and the transparency. I think that is the key. So people, I don't think they're nervous necessarily about it, but they're nervous of what is the data that is used to train this, or where is this coming from? Is this AI? Is this not AI? So it's more of that. So as long as brands are transparent and they're using tools that are trained responsibly, I think that alleviates a little bit more. The other interesting thing too that we see with our visual GPS, on that note that people don't want to be fooled or lied to, is that we see that the sentiment shifts more negatively towards brands that use AI to create people or real products. Because, well, all to say that if a brand needs to create a product or service, it's still best to convey visuals that are real, because people, they want to identify themselves with who they're seeing in the advertisement and the campaign. But this also varies within industry. So we see people are a little more nervous or negative with industries such as healthcare, consumer products, and travel that are using Gen AI to create their campaigns.
And do we know where does this idea come from? That if there's a company of trips or yeah, like for example, you mentioned trips companies. Why are they uncomfortable with that kind of images? Because of the advertisement, or because of the use of the AI in the advertisement?
As I mentioned, I think it's more like if you're using a product or people, they need to be transparent. I can't really go to details like specific brands or anything if they aren't being transparent, but it's more about, think about healthcare. It's such a delicate topic, and they want to make sure that they can trust you, right? So they're more cautious about the things that they see within healthcare. Travel, if they're buying travel, they want to make sure that it's real. What you're showing them, it's real, unless it's marked that, okay, this is 100% AI. This is just an imagination of what we think about when we think travel. But it's just little, if you think about the topic, these are products and places and things that are super important to us, and we want to make sure we can trust it.
I was thinking about that, like, for example, this kind of ideas, where, because if you want to go to a place and it's an AI generated image, it's like it isn't even real, So
exactly, and that's why also I think the descriptions and the titles and the pre-shot imagery that we have on our library is so important to our customers, because they want to make sure that they're showing the place that they're selling.
Yeah.
So all of that, again, to say how transparency and honesty, how consumers appreciate that with the brands.
Can you please share with us some tips for brands to effectively use AI-generated content? You have mentioned, for example, responsibility, transparency, to get the customers to trust you. But can you tell us one or two more?
Yeah, I think that it's really, obviously I'm not here to tell what the brands should and shouldn't do. We do have a lot of research that shows certain things, as I've mentioned. But I think that it's really important for the brands to ask themselves, or the creatives, or the marketers, what is the campaign message, first of all? And then, are Gen AI visuals the right content to use in this instance with this specific audience? I think that the brands, they need to be intentional as to how, when, and also where they're using Gen AI visuals to make sure that it resonates with the target audience and it also creates a positive impact.
Okay.
Obviously, super important to know and consider where the AI tool or how it was trained. And also, I'd say that if using it in final ads, where make sure that it's ads that you do need unique images in order for your brands to stand out. While they can still find highly differentiated content within our libraries, for example, if you need something that's one of a kind, truly unique, just for you, Gen AI could be a great option. And the good thing about our generative AI tool is that we're not including anything that is prompted into our library. So if a customer goes in and does their own prompts, it does not go to our library. He can license it. It's uniquely his, exclusively his. Nobody else is going to have that image. So it's also a great way to be unique and use that.
Okay, so you work with just like unique pieces?
Absolutely. So anything you prompt and come up with, if you do a unicorn in the middle of New York, that's just yours. Someone can also prompt unicorn in New York, but because it comes up with different things every time, whatever you do download and license, You get all legal indemnification, but it's exclusively yours. It's not going to go back to a website for someone else to, yes, exactly, to buy it. And the good thing about our tool too is that we do compensate our creators. I was mentioning about being responsible with all the data and the visuals that's being used for training. And we compensate our creators with on an ongoing basis. So not just with the assets that we use to train the tool, but also every time that a client prompts and generates and downloads an image, those images are also, we also compensate our creators. So as we make revenue, so does our contributor or our creators.
And what criteria determine the use of AI generated images in a campaign? It depends on the brand or the necessities or what they want, or also iStock and Getty Image helps the brands to make the idea a reality. I mean, does the brand comes to you and tell us, I need this unicorn in New York, for example, and you help them, or they just search for it?
Yeah, so I think there are different ways that we, Getty Images and iStock, we help our customers. So we have our pre-shot library, and we have exclusive differentiated content that they can use. We also have our custom content briefs that use our global net of creators. So brands come to us, they have specific needs. Our creatives all over the world shoot specifically to what they need for them. And then we also have our Gen AI. So when it comes to our Gen AI, there are some tips when you go on the site itself to start prompting. We do have some tips of how you can put the positives and the negatives and make sure you get to what you need. So we start generating tips for you according to what you're looking for. So the tool itself does help you prompt because sometimes it's hard for you to even put into words what's in your brain. So the tool does help you do that in a certain way as well. So you can generate what you're looking for. And we also, like I said, we have our pre-shot. So as you're generating, we can also offer you, we kind of have something similar already. Do you want to look at this? So it's, it's interchangeable, and we're always trying to help the creator because that's our main goal, right? For them to create high level stuff and make sure that they have what they need.
And also because you don't only offer like one option, it's like we have all these options and you can choose one, or the ones that it's I don't know, the one that it's more like for what you're looking for.
Exactly. And if we don't have it, if you're a brand,
we can generate it.
Custom content, yes, or we can generate it. Exactly.
That could be a good slogan. If we don't have it, we can generate it.
Love that.
So we are in a changing political process.
Yeah.
You mentioned some of your pros and cons of using this kind of content in a political way. About 30 countries will elect their president the next year. So our question in this topic is, what pros and cons do you find in the use of AI in this scenario? Like with political, things.
Yeah, I know. I think it's a delicate subject. I would say same thing I said about brands and creators and how they should be responsible when using it. We know that 98% of consumers in Latin America, they say and they agree that authentic images and videos are pivotal to establishing trust. So again, we know that trust is a huge thing for them. They want everything that was generated with AI to be identified as such. So brands and institutions, they do need to consider their role in spreading this disinformation and also bias.
Okay.
Obviously, again, we don't tell brands what to do, but we do recommend that they're responsible when they're using AI. It is Gen AI. It does stimulate the creative projects and creativity for sure, but as long as the model is used, the model uses content that protects intellectual property and does it responsibly, and doesn't do the deep fakes and make sure it's just labeled as such, or if it was modified, but make sure that it's labeled. As I mentioned, As an editorial news provider, we make sure that we're not spreading misinformation, and we're 100%, true to what is being shot and seen. So I think that's super important when businesses and brands are thinking about doing their political campaigns.
And I think this question was answered like some minutes ago when you mentioned this, and you mentioned it again. Responsibility and transparency. Like we just provide the tool, and our tool works with this politics, but it's on you in how do you want to improve it, you know. And talking about this part of political processes and these scenarios, I also share the idea that it's delicate to talk about that topic, and more if we are talking with AI images, like what are you gonna use it for, you know?
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
we are aware of the dangers that AI can pose in the production of fake news. So, do you have another measures to identify these AI or fake news, these AI images or fake news?
Yeah. As we mentioned, as I mentioned, Getty Images does train its Gen AI tool in 100% creative content. So
How do
you can't
they?
create.
I don't know if you know that, and sorry for
Yeah,
interrupting, but
it's
how
okay.
do you get to train an AI tool?
So it's millions and millions of assets that go to the tool, and it trains
Okay,
off
okay.
of those assets.
Mm-hmm.
So we have on Getty Images and iStock, well, specifically talking now about editorial and creative, but on Getty Images, we have the editorial side and we have the creative side. So
Okay.
that's super separate. So everything that's creative has model releases, everything is legal within it. So it's only trained on those assets. It does not go into our editorial content, which is news, sports, entertainment. So you're not going to see brands, you're not going to see politicians, you're not going to see celebrities. So the tool, when it was trained, it did not use any of that content. So that means that when you're trying to generate something that is editorial related or related to a politician, it doesn't even know what it is because it was never trained using that content. So
Okay.
it doesn't bring any results. It doesn't know what Nike is. It doesn't know what Taylor Swift is. It doesn't know any of that. So that's what I mean when I say that it was 100% trained on creative assets only.
Yeah, just with I don't know, prompts and assets for creative things.
Right, right. From our creators. Exactly. So that's why I mentioned that it's so important for brands to know what tools they're using and how the tools were created to make sure that it's legally safe and it covers all of that and it's not just creating deep fakes or spreading more misinformation.
Okay. So, Renata, for closing this interview, this marvelous and interesting interview, what's the future, or what do you consider it's going to be the future of these creative processes and these AI tools, and also talking with about iStock and Getty Images particularly, but like the use of with brands and people who want to know about these kind of images, that if they are real, if they are not real, what can we expect about this?
Yeah, that's a great question, Leo. As I mentioned, regulation is still needed. There's so many unanswered questions still. It has been developing very quickly. Um, we also do believe that regardless, it should also always be based on permission data,
Mm-hmm.
visuals, and also individual privacy. It is an exciting tool, and we do support it. We're currently now training and partnering with Runway, so more to come on that in terms of video, because now we have Gen AI, which is just photos and stills, but now we're working on the tool with Runway for video. So I mean, a lot of exciting things coming out. But overall in the market, I really do think that as long as brands are being transparent and not trying to, fool people or trick
Yeah.
people into believing something that's not, I think it can go a long way. It's just like I said, it's a creative tool. it can be used in a very positive way. So I just really hope that, moving forward, brands and model providers are thinking about really using it responsibly.
And I would like to also add to this comment that something you've been saying a lot in this interview, it's for creativity, for the brands to be creative, not to fool people or to use it in a negative way.
Exactly. And like I mentioned, we've seen with our visual GPS research how important it is for brands to, for the target audience to trust the brand. So the more they do it as a creative tool and just build that trust, the more they'll be able to use it. So it's, again, if it used responsibly, it's a very positive thing. And it's another tool. It's like when Photoshop started, right? Yeah. So this is just another tool now that creatives can use. I used to live in Photoshop, and I love Photoshop because you used to be creative with it. Now there's this other tool that you can use with generative AI and other ways of being creative. So yes, 100%. But again, being responsible and making sure that you're building the trust with your target audience and not misleading them in any way.
And I remember that discussion was also open when Photoshop started. When they started making these images with Photoshop, it was like, no, it's not a tool. It's going to take our works. And it's like, no, right. It's just something that simplifies the work,
It is. And I mean, even if you think about analog, I started Getty Images before digital cameras came along, or right when it started. Think about analog, when digital cameras started coming along, photographers like, oh my God, that's digital now. Everyone's going to do it. I'm going to lose my.
They will take my job.
It just made it better.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's just one more of those seasons where we just need to get used to it and really understand how to use it wisely and responsibly and properly. But it's just another tool, creative tool for us to use.
Well, Renata, thank you very much for this interview.
My pleasure, Leo.
I think it's very interesting, because every day we get these notes in Rosebrief that talks about AI and improvement and responsibility and what that we can do with these new tools, because it's been like this evolution in a really, really, really fast way. And when we get people like you that has this part in this like sorry, I just have to
you can say it in Spanish if you want. I understand it, I just can't really speak it too well, so
no, don't worry, I can do it. Like, for example, you are the director of iStock, and it's like, we got these tools, but we also got all these terms of use. It's not just like the free tool that you can use and do whatever you want. And I think that I consider that it's very important that people like you with these tools and these like ser tan cercanos a las marcas, it's necessary to put that on the table.
It is. I agree. And like I said, we're not here to tell brands what to do. We're just here to, share the knowledge and research and everything. But we really encourage them to be responsible when using AI. And I'm glad that I work for a company that for almost 19 years now or 18 that is responsible and does offer that tool to creatives, the safe tool with an indemnification and thinking about their creators when they're using the training set. So yeah.
It's very interesting because AI has been like exploding everywhere, and every day we got something new, but we weren't aware about this politics of use,
Yeah, exactly. And also Getty Images working with a lot of other media organizations to promote responsible AI. So we're very connected to this, and we do feel responsible for that as well, to make sure that we're doing the right thing for our customers, for the brands and everything else.
Yeah, for como un uso correcto de todo y estar seguros de que se está usando de forma segura.
Exactly. So we have a voice in that. We'll continue to do.
Well, Renata, thank you very much. Thank you for
Thank
this
you.
interview. I hope we can have another interview when you
Sure, anytime.
yeah, when you consolidate, for example, all these terms of use
Yeah,
that you mentioned. I will check that because it could be a really nice interview. You know.
yeah, for sure. I'm here. Maybe I'll practice my Spanish a little bit more, so next time we can do it in Spanish. We'll see.
Don't worry, I'm like a little rusty too in English.
You're fine.
But
It was
no.
perfect. It was perfect, Leo. You're great.
Thank you very
I
much.
can't say the same about my portuñol, but your English is great.
Okay, say something in Spanish.
¿Qué quieres que yo diga?
Llevo 18 años trabajando en iStock y Getty Images.
Ok, yo trabajo en Getty Images y iStock hace 18 años, desde 2006.
It's okay, it's correct.
You can understand me, but it's not, it's rusty.
Well,
Maybe we'll try next time, as long as we don't record it, because I don't want to be
no, we will edit that. But for example, where I come from, it's from the state of Mexico, Renata. You know?
Oh, okay.
And you wouldn't understand how we talk there, because it's like, si ya te las ahoritas, ¿para qué me invitas? Vaya, vaya, Tacubaya, si no conoce mejor ni vaya. You know? And it's, yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, if I speak Portuguese, you'll probably understand me, but if I start speaking to someone else in Portuguese fast, like you just did,
Yeah,
you'll
no.
have no idea
But
what I'm saying.
obrigado. Obrigado.
De nada. See, that's great.
Renata, thank you very much for this
Thank
interview.
you. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
Roast Beef community, we are here with Renata Simões, who is the director of creative content at iStock and Getty Images. And remember that if we want to improve these tools with our brands, with anything, we have to be responsible and to know that we are using images to express creativity and not to fool people.
Exactly.
So, Renata, again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Leo. I appreciate it.